Oh, cube root of what? We have cube root of m to the 9th over what? Q. So if you're trying to what? Rationalize the denominator, right? No, it just says simplify. So rationalize the denominator. This one's a little bit trickier. First of all, cube root is what power? So you could make this m to the what power on top? Which is what? Okay, hold on one sec. Zoya, that's the second time your phone has beeped. If it does again, I'm going to take it and sell it back to you later. Maybe. Okay? Ready?
Well, I know that, but it's
we mute it, and then it's going in there. Okay, there we go. M to the what power? Third. There we go. Over, you could write this as Q to the what power? So you could write it like this. So I mean, if you wanted to, you're not quite sure what to do, you might have written something like that, correct? The challenge is how do you need to guarantee that the denominator is rational. Cube root, you're not guaranteed for it to be rational if Q is rational. Because the square, like 7 is a rational number, but is the cube root of 7 rational? No. You want that to be Q to some power that's nice, like 1, right? So let's just go in reverse for a second. What could we multiply by to make it something over Q to the first? What do you multiply by? Q to the 2/3. So you have Q to the 2/3 and Q to the 2/3, and what do you end up with? M cubed, Q to the 2/3 over what? Yeah, because you add the powers, right? You add them together, and you end up with Q to the first. Now, do we really care what the numerator looks like? Not really, no. If Q is a rational number, is Q to the first a rational number? Yeah. So you're done. It's a similar one. You could leave it as radical form. It's this, right? Over z to the what power? And I'm doing that because it's easier to see what you need to multiply by to get to z. What do I need to multiply by? Yep, z to the what? 3/4. So if you're multiplying that on the bottom, by that on the bottom, you need to also multiply on the top. Exactly. Exactly. So what do you end up with? You could write it in radical form, be the 4th root of 2y times the 4th root of what? Z to the 3rd. You could write it like this. Is the denominator rational? Yeah. Do we really care what the numerator looks like right now? Not so much.
Wait, can you write them all into the same radical form now?
You could, because they're both to the 4th root. You absolutely could. You could write this as the 4th root of 2yz to the 3rd over z. That's even cleaner. I like that. Good observation. You can do that. Why can you do that? Because you specifically have 4th root times a 4th root. If it was something different, 4 and 5, you could not combine it. You have to have the same power. The reason you can do that is there's an exponent rule that says you know that a times b to the nth power is a to the n times what? B to the n. But that works both ways. So if you had, a to the 12th times b to the 12th, what does that equal? ab to the 12th, and it could be a fractional power. It doesn't have to, it's the same rules apply. Fractions, not fractions. Look, everything is a fraction because it could be over 1.
Could I write
Understand this. You're talking about the difference between writing like the 4th root of z cubed versus the 4th root of z to the 3rd power, right?
I know they're the same thing.
They are the same.
How do you determine if it goes to that z or to the whole?
The parentheses. It's the same thing because it.
No, but to that problem, it was only for that z.
But these are equal. In this case, it's going to the z. In this case, it's going to the whole thing. They are the same thing.
Please scroll up.
Okay, where?
Here and.
This one right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See how the cube goes only to the z?
Correct.
That's what I'm confused about. How do we know it doesn't go to the 2yz?
Oh, because it's only touching the z. Because it's only attached to the z.
If it was in parentheses.
It would have to. The yz would have to be in parentheses for it to touch the y.
Okay.
Yes, I think so. You're asking this. The different, like what you're saying. What you're saying is if you have like a b to the n, that's not a to the n, b to the n.
Okay.
If you wanted it to be, you'd have to have a b to the n is equal to a to the n, b to the n. You need the parentheses. I understand that. Bye bye.
X minus y. Square root of x minus.
Can someone say it with a complete sentence?
You should multiply
I should multiply by what? The square root of what?
x minus radical y over radical x minus radical.
Yeah, you need to say square root because radical means just that symbol. So say root. Say root. So in this case, if you multiply this out, yeah, you can leave the top the way it is for now, which is fine, because you don't really care, do you?
No.
But the bottom, what happens? It ends up becoming what?
X.
X minus y, right? Now, could you try simplifying the top and seeing if something happens? Does anything happen magically? No. So you could end up right there. Okay, you want another one that's nice and fun? Okay, try this one, everybody. Try that one. Go. So what do I multiply by, Connor?
I multiplied by 1 plus root 3 over 1 plus root 3.
Yeah, exactly. So you end up with, on the top,
Root 3 plus 3 plus 1 plus
so root 3 plus 3 plus 1 plus root 3. Yep. All over 1 minus
1.
Minus 3. So on top, what does the top simplify to? How many root 3's do you see? 2 root 3 plus what? 4 all over what? Negative 2. What can you factor out of the top? What can you factor out of the top? A 2. So it's root 3 plus 2 all over negative 2. What cancels? The 2's cancel, but what are you left with? Negative root 3 plus 2. So what's the answer going to be? 2 minus root 3. That would be the awesome final clean form. What did you multiply by?
The square root of r plus 3
Yes, and?
over the square root of r plus 3.
Okay, say the root r plus 3 over what? Root r plus 3. So you end up with r minus 9. Mar, stop writing for a sec. Literally, put the pencil down. Stop. Watch. I don't want you to do anything else besides watch. Put it down. Oh, you did. Okay, you're inches away, so I guess then it's okay. Okay. So what do you end up with on the bottom when you multiply it out?
R
Minus
plus
what?
3 times square root of r.
Yeah, that's not what you end up on the bottom. Look, what's the square root of r times the square root of r? R. And then you end up with plus 3 root r minus 3 root r minus what? 9. What cancels? So what are you left with? R minus 9 times root r plus 3 all over what? What cancels? So what do you end up with? Root r plus 3. Put everything away, please. Equation, because it has a radical and radical equation, because it has an equal sign in it. Right. So the first thing, this is as simple as it gets. So we're going to be able to crush these. There's only a couple steps you need to know. Other ones, you're going to have to get to a form like this. This is kind of going to be home free. When you get to here, you should feel done. Because the first thing you're always going to do is you're going to try to isolate the radical. Is the radical isolated? Yeah, there's nothing in front of it. There's nothing added to it. How do you get rid of a square root? What do you do, Summer? Yeah, you square this. So if you square that side, you also have to square the... So what's the square root of 3x plus 4 squared? Turns into 3x plus 4 equals 64. So 3x is equal to 60, so x is equal to 20. If you don't show work, you get no credit. You must show work. So could you plug in 20 into the original and see if it works? Absolutely, it does work. What about this one, though? What's the only thing that changes here? First of all, is the radical isolated? Really?
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
The radical is isolated. What do you have to do to both sides? You have to square, say it with me, both sides. Ready on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Both sides. Sides. Can you square individual elements? No. So if I square this side, what does this side become? Yeah, 4 minus x. You have to square both sides. When you have this, can you just make it x squared plus 2 squared? No. No. What does squaring mean? Times x plus 2. So you have to FOIL this. So 4 minus x is equal to what? X squared plus 2x plus 2x plus 4. So you have 4 minus x is equal to x squared plus 4x plus 4. This is no longer a radical equation. This is a quadratic equation. So how do we go about solving quadratics? Do you remember?
Oh, set to 0?
Exactly. We have to set it to 0. So let's set it to 0. What can we cancel from both sides immediately? The 4's go away, right? What should I add to both sides? Plus x. Plus x. So I have 0 is equal to x squared plus what? So now that we've isolated, we set it equal to 0, which is great. What should we do next? One word. Factor. And you said take out x is the same thing. Absolutely correct. What can we factor out? X times what? So you have two things that multiply together to get 0, so one or both has to be 0. So either x is 0 or what is 0?
-5.
X plus 5 is equal to 0. So x is equal to -5. How many answers did we get? It is always important to check your answer if you can. It is super important to check your answer with radical equations. It is really easy. This is important, everybody. It is really easy to generate false answers. Here's why. Does 5 equal -5? Is that true? No, it's not true. But if I square both sides, what do I end up with? Is that true? You can create false equivalencies. You can create things that are not true. So we over here have two answers, 0 and -5. Let's go back up here and see if it works. What was our original equation? It was what? 4 minus x. The square root of that equals what? X plus 2. Let's plug in 0 and see if it works. Okay, so you have to be very careful about checking your answers. Let's try. There's nothing added. So what should you do to both sides?
Square.
Go ahead. You could square the whole thing right now. That is correct, but you have to be very careful about the squaring. Hint, move something over to the other side. I recommend you do to start this one. You could make it, this is what I would do. I would do this and make it equal to 2 minus this. And then what do you have to do at this point? What's your only option? The only option you have is to square both sides. The left side is really nice because what does the left side become? 5x plus 6. But when you square the other side, what does squaring mean? Times what? So it seems terrible because what are you going to end up with? You're still going to have what in your next line? You're still going to have a radical. But how many radicals are you going to have? Instead of 2, you're going to have, is 1 radical simpler than 2? Hey, then what was that first word I gave you for solving radical equations? Then you isolate and then you solve. Homework is in